Hello viewers, welcome back to the Moose Mobile Auto Repair channel, and today we're working on a 2005 Toyota Corolla. Previously I diagnosed this vehicle having both bad front wheel bearings because they're both making a lot of noise, and so today I'm just going to be replacing the driver's side. In the front, it's the same thing as the passenger side, and unfortunately I won't be pressing in and pressing out the wheel bearings. The ones in the front, the one in the front are pressed in. I just purchased a loaded steering knuckle assembly by Moog, so I'm just going to put this in because this comes with all of the parts: a new hub, wheel bearing, the C clip inside, a new backing plate. So it comes with everything new. So it's a lot faster and easier to just put this in, because this only costed me about like $100 or so extra, so it was not all that much. So I will save about like an hour or two per side, because I don't have to press out and press in the wheel bearings. So here's the box that it comes with. This part number is LK029. This is the Moog steering knuckle. So it comes with everything how you need to install the steering knuckle, and it comes with a new axle nut. The torque specs are not the right torque specs on this. This vehicle is 159 foot-pounds. It's not 216. That's wrong, so you need to watch out for that. So it comes with the knuckle. You can see it's labeled L for the left side. So it has a stamped casting on it. It says Moog. So I'm going to be installing this today, and I also purchased a new ball joint from the Toyota dealership. I wanted to install everything new as I'm in there. So here's the part number for the lower ball joint. They are interchangeable for either side. These ball joints, they usually go forever, so you shouldn't have any issues with these ball joints. Is just that this vehicle is a 19-year-old vehicle, so I want to make sure I change everything, and then after I'm done, I'm going to send this vehicle to the alignment shop to have the alignment done. So the first thing that we are going to do is to take off the wheel. So now we need to unstake the axle nut. So try our best to unstake it. I'm just using a drift chisel or punch or whatever. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Sometimes it may be difficult to unstake the axle nut, so you may need to use something to get underneath over here. So as long as you don't damage the threads of the axle, because the whole purpose of unstaking the nut is to get it out easier. But there are some times where you don't need to unstake it and it comes out easy, but you need to watch out. So we're gonna use a 30 millimeter, a 12 point socket. It came out quite easy. So this axle is free. We are not going to be reusing the axle nut because we have a new one. So it's always best to replace the axle nuts with the new one always. The next step is to remove the cotter pin for the outer tie rod end. We are going to try to straighten out the cotter pin. This is not coming out easy. So I have them in in pieces here. This the nut is an 18. The sizes are going to vary because I have some aftermarket parts installed on this, so it's going to vary because I don't think the bolts and the nut sizes are the same for all cars, so it's going to vary. This is an 18. So we're going to take this off. You can temporarily install the nut and just use a hammer to slightly tap it. You don't want to tap too hard on it because it is going to damage the tie rod, and so we are going to take it out. You install the nut here temporarily and to leave it there for now. So we still need to remove the bolts for the strut tower, but before we do that we have to take the brakes off, and then we're going to remove the lower ball joint, the 2 bolts and nut. We're going to take off the brakes from the caliper bracket. This is a 17. I know I didn't have it completely all the way on the bolt. Take the brakes off, put this on the side, and we are going to hang this up afterwards. I'm just going to use a bungee cord to hang this up. leave this on the side somewhere. Remove the brake rotor. So we're just going to take off the 2 bolts. So the 2 nuts and the 1 bolt for the lower ball joint. We're just gonna leave the ball joint inside the steering knuckle because we are replacing it. We can push down on the lower control arm to separate from the ball joint. And to get that out of the way. So what's left is to take out the 2 strut bolts and nuts. If you want, you can mark it with a paint pen or marker or some whiteout of some sort if you want, but to me it doesn't matter because I'm going to send this to the alignment shop. So I'm going to take out these bolts now. So just make sure that you take note of the orientation of everything. The nuts are on this side, is pointing towards the front of the vehicle. So you use a wrench to hold the bolt, and to usually I use an impact to remove the nuts. So both are 19 millimeters each. These are free already, so you may not need to use a hammer, but if you want, you can temporarily install a nut here and just use a hammer to get them out. You will need to wiggle the steering knuckle and everything in order to get these out. You can use a punch or whatever to punch out the bolts if you want to. And it's out. And now you just need to push back on the strut and support the axle, and the whole steering knuckle comes out. You can see it's rusted a lot inside over here. I don't know if this is the grease that's coming out of the wheel bearing. So you spin this and you can hear the noise. So this one does not have a backing plate or anything. Still has the original ball joint from 19 years ago. These ball joints, they typically last forever, almost. So I haven't had any issues with it. These are still the originals. So this is it. There's no backing plate or anything. So we are gonna be replacing it. Just make sure you don't let this axle hang or anything. If it's resting on the control arm, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure it's not hanging down or anything. Everything, it needs to be supported. So I took out the microphone temporarily. I just want you guys to hear the noise. it's making a lot of noise. So we are just going to clean up the axle a little bit and stuff to get any of the dirt and debris out of here. I believe the grease was leaking out from the bearing. It's no longer sealing properly, because I typically use a different type of grease, and the grease that was here was black. Usually I use the red style, the Lucas grease on the axles and stuff. Just making sure everything is clean. And after, I'm going to put in the new ball joint off of the vehicle, and then we are going to torque it afterwards. So this ball joint, it comes with a new nut and cotter pin. For some reason it comes in this strange Ziploc bag. I got it directly from the Toyota dealership in person. So anyhow, we are going to install this inside the knuckle. So I forgot to mention that if your vehicle has ABS, it will come with the ABS opening. If your vehicle does not have it, then you don't need to worry about it. This vehicle does not have ABS, so you don't need to do anything with this. So we're going to install the ball joint through here, like this. We're going to install the nut. It's just easier to do it off of the vehicle first before you have the steering knuckle inside on the vehicle. So I'm just going to tighten it up a little bit. The torque spec for this is 76 foot-pounds on this ball joint. This is a 19 millimeter. We'll torque it afterwards when it's on the vehicle, because I will have to fight with the knuckle by holding it down and stuff. So I'm just putting it in here, just like as tight as I can, but it's not over the spec. So we are gonna torque it afterwards. So what I like to do is I like to lubricate this area with a little bit of wheel bearing grease, just to put everywhere in the surrounding areas, so that the axle goes in easily, and to prevent any rust inside here. So now we're gonna add a little bit of grease on the splines of the axle. I'm just using the Lucas, the red grease stuff. You can use any type of grease. Just make sure that you don't mix up the different type of greases. And then we're gonna put a little bit inside the hub at the front, just in here. It's important to put grease inside, because so things don't make noise or bind up or anything like that. So it's always a good idea to put grease. I also like to grease up the suspension bolts, because I live in the Rust Belt, I had like somebody giving me a lecture not to put grease or something or blah blah blah. I don't really care on what anyone says. I've been doing this for 16 years. I always like to grease steering and suspension bolts, certain bolts and specific bolts. So I haven't had a problem. Usually I just don't grease the studs itself, like the tie rod stud or the ball joint stud. I install them dry. So, but everything else I like to put grease on it because of all the rust in the rust belt. It makes it difficult to remove in the future. And so when you add grease onto a suspension bolt or any bolt, they say you're supposed to reduce the torque by 20 to 30%. You don't have to, but stuff like suspension bolts can take a little bit of a beating. So even if you over torque by 5, 10 or 20 foot-pounds for some suspension bolts, it's not going to be a big deal really. So it's not a big deal, to be honest. So we're just going to install this in now, and later we're going to torque the lower ball joint bolt afterwards. Just trying to get this in first. I'm just trying to see if it might be difficult to torque this, so we'll see in what happens because the axle is gonna be in the way. So just trying to see on what I can do here. You know, I'll see if I can torque it. If not, I'll just tighten it up snug, and then that's it. And if you want, you can torque it on the bench on a vise if you want. So it's all up to you. Just trying to line everything up all at once, the ball joint and the axle and everything. So we're just going to temporarily install this axle nut just to hold things down. I'm going to grease the strut bolts a tiny bit. Reinstalling the nuts. Typically when I install these, I like to push the steering knuckle all the way forward so that I can get the camber settings to be straight. On some vehicles they may have like a large adjustment gap, so I don't want the camber to be too much on an angle like this. I want to push in all the way down usually, and then I tighten up the nuts. Is going to vary depending on the vehicle that you are working on. So typically I want to get the camber as straight as possible, but usually camber will be like 1 or 2 degrees plus or minus. So but usually the best way on most vehicles is to push it all the way this way, so you can get the strut and the knuckle straight. I'm not too concerned about throwing the alignment off on this vehicle because I'm already going to be taking it to the shop after I'm done to both sides. So now I'm just going to use the wrench to hold this down, and at the same time to push the knuckle towards the strut. we're going to torque everything down after we're all done, and then that's it. And for now, I'm just I'm tightening up the bolts. I'm not cranking up the impact all the way. So we're going to torque everything down after we're all finished. Just tightening up the axle nut a tad bit. So we're going to line up the lower ball joint studs onto the control arm. Trying to line up the stud here. And now it's in. Install the bolts, the 2 nuts and the 1 bolt. All 3 are 17. So we're going to reinstall the outer tie rod end into the knuckle. You guys can't see anything now because of the backing plate of the new backing plate. 18 mil. Just tighten it a bit, and then we are going to torque it after. Just a tad bit to run the nut down. Just because I use an impact wrench does not mean that I'm cranking it up. I'm tightening it up all the way to the extreme over the torque specifications. Some people think that if you use an impact wrench, you're over tightening it. If you are able to control the impact wrench, then you shouldn't have a problem. So we're going to torque the strut to 113 foot-pounds in each one. I'm just going to put a little bit of anti-seize on the hub, then we're going to install a brake rotor afterwards. I like to use this stuff. You can use like a spray if you want, like a white gray spray or whatever. I just like to put anti-seize. I know that some guys don't like to use this stuff, but it works for me. So Anyhow, we are just going to clean up the rotor and reinstall the brake rotor, and then continue putting everything back. So I cleaned everything down with some brake cleaner and a shop rag. Just gonna use the old axle nut, put it here so we can hold the rotor in place. Now reinstall the brakes, the brake caliper and everything. Just lining up the bolts and everything. The caliper bolts, I tighten up. I tighten it up tight by using the German method. I tighten up the caliper bolts by using the German method, the guten tight, the guten tight method. So I'm just looking for the 17 mil. You need to turn the steering knuckle a little bit so I can work. Remove the bungee cord out of the way. And to tighten down the caliper bolts here. Just making sure it's tight. So we're going to turn this. We're going to torque the axle nut to 159 foot-pounds. The spec on the Toyota ones is wrong. It's 159. It's at 218. That's incorrect. It's at 216. Yeah. So 159 on this. It's because I've worked on these vehicles before in the past, so I know how much the torque spec is. We just need to use the same 30 millimeter 12 point socket. So this is set to 159. 159. You're gonna put a punch or drift chisel at the bottom here. This is the driver's side, so to help to prevent the wheel from turning. I was going to use a torque stick just to temporarily tighten up the nut so I don't have to do this. And that's it. You can tighten this when the vehicle is on the floor if you want to. It doesn't really matter too much. So it's up to you. You can tighten it when the wheel is on the floor and then tighten it, or if you want to do it now. And we are going to stake this axle nut. We're going to stake the axle nut now. I believe that's good. You don't want to kill it. You just want to stake it just enough. So we are going to torque the lower ball joint, the two nuts and the one bolt to 66. So this one we're not going to torque because didn't have access. We're just going to tighten it up snug and then that's it. And that should be good. And we're going to install a cotter pin after that. You should torque this down if you can, but I just want to get this job done. It's the family vehicle, so it's not the end of the world if you don't torque stuff. This, you just tighten it tight and you're good. This is the same amount of tightness to when you tighten the wheels on this vehicle. They're both 76 foot-pounds. I know that when some guys are replacing ball joints that's like this, they don't even bother taking out the axle, and they undo it here and then that's it, to save some time. So I'm just going to line up now. This is tight enough. I'm just going to line up the holes for the cotter pin. So now I'm just installing the cotter pin. I got it in off camera. Just need to bend the cotter pin now. Let's get this out of the way from the axle so it doesn't damage anything. I'm switching torque wrenches now. The tie rod stud is 36 foot-pounds. That's good. So I carry some cotter pins in stock, so that if at any time I need to remove something, I have some spare cotter pins. I'm gonna lubricate this with grease, so it makes it easier for the next time that you can take out the cotter pin. If the cotter pin does not go in through all the way, you will need to tighten up the castle nut a tiny bit more to line up. Do not loosen up the castle nut. The castle nut, always tighten it up just a tiny bit so I can get the cotter pin through. The cotter pin through like this. Take your side cutters or pliers or whatever you have on hand, and spread open the cotter pins. Doesn't matter on how you do it. You can do it like a pro if you want or whatever. Doesn't really matter as long as you close up the cotter pin to prevent it from coming out. Just gonna put a little bit of anti-seize over here, and then after I'm just going to double check my work just to make sure that everything is tight. And I'm also going to check for play in the ball joint just to make sure there's no play or looseness, and then you should be all good to go. Just gonna spray down the brake rotor again, in case if I got any grease or debris or anything, and I don't want anything to contaminate the brake pads. And just make sure that you check for play in the lower ball joint just to make sure that everything is tight, and then you should be all good to go. Also make sure that everything is all tightened up and you didn't leave any loose bolts or anything. So that's it for this video. I just need to reinstall the wheels and to pump the brakes and just make sure everything is okay. I still have to do the passenger side, and after I'm done that, I'm gonna go for a road test and take this vehicle to the alignment shop. The driver's side is the same exact thing as the passenger side, so it's the same thing. I'm not going to show that because it's the same exact thing. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please don't forget to give it a like, and please consider subscribing to my channel if you're not already a subscriber, and please don't forget to hit that bell notification. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good day and take care.